Well, good morning. I'm Jeff Coleman.
And I'm Debra Pinkerton. Welcome to Morning Light.
Well, you're going to love our panel this morning. We're going to be talking about a challenging topic in today's headlines.
But first, here is a preview of what's coming up later in the show. Every Wednesday this month, we are teaming up with ABWE, Association of Baptists for World Evangelism, to bring you Witness Wednesday. This is a segment on how Christians can walk beside those with different religious backgrounds. And today, we will explain how we can minister to and also love our Muslim neighbors.
But first, every year, Oxford University and Gallup conduct an in-depth analysis of the world's well-being in a comprehensive study called, get this, the World Happiness Report. This year's 256-page document zeroed in an idea from the New Testament, that it is more blessed to give than to receive. They looked at things like giving and volunteering and whether or not we eat alone and the strength of our family relationships. Apparently, that's a key factor, each of them a factor in our happiness.
I think that's true. I think when you give, you feel better, don't you?
I feel better.
Yeah, I rather give than receive.
And
sure.
Eat together.
Yes. In the 2025 World Happiness Ranking, Americans took a tumble to the 24th spot, our lowest rating ever, below countries like Canada, Israel, and Mexico. The research points to a significant culprit, especially for those under 30, social isolation. Fewer marriages and smaller families mean the natural community of caring and sharing just isn't there.
Seems like there's a theme in a lot of our conversations on these mornings, which is that people are increasingly looking inward and not, and the idea of family or taking care of someone else or having a lot of children is really not in vogue.
That's right. Well, they're on their phones and they're doing everything through social media.
Well, what would it look like if we wanted to reverse this trend? Is it time to bring back family dinners or invite grandparents to live in our homes? Imagine that. How do we create space to learn the art of relationships, serving, caring, sacrificing for each other? Is it time to reconsider large families, maybe with fewer vacations or lifestyle amenities, to be able to afford all those children? And is there really a connection between happiness, and Debra says, and giving? We'll take this question to the Morning Light panel this morning. And what a panel it is, and a new face to our Morning Light viewers, Representative Josh Kail, all the way from Beaver County. Good to have you here.
Jeff, thank you for having me.
And just to get this out on the table for our viewers, how many children do you have?
My wife and I have 8 children.
8
children, yeah. Our oldest is 14. Our 6th is actually turning 7 today, so happy birthday to Cleopatra. And our youngest
Does
is
she go
2.
by Cleopatra?
Cleo.
Cleo.
Yeah, she goes by Cleo.
Very nice, very nice. 8.
Yes. I don't know 8 people, Jeff. So, but yeah, that's...
Daniel,
yeah,
you're not married yet, so there's a goal for you to set 8. And he's the happiest guy we have. Yeah. So let's talk about this. This is World Happiness Report. Easy to dismiss reports like this because there's all kinds of ways to look at life and different ways of measuring happiness. But when you look at America, we are not as happy as we once were. You look at countries where they are apparently happy and what they're at least projecting. You're looking at family structures, places like Mexico, which is, they've got all kinds of problems. They've got cartels, they've got corruption, they've got all, but they have something that we don't have as many of, which is intact families or multi-generational families living in a home together. What do you think is happening to us as we look, it seems like, inward, and fewer of us are deciding to have, I mean, it's kind of the Planned Parenthood effect, which is you'll be happiest if you take care of your career first, save those children for later. What's the message you think of this moment in American life?
Well, I think more concerning, people are looking at whether or not they're going to have the money to raise whatever amount of children that they decide to have. So I think some of it's financial. I think we've all...
Because you think if you have 8 children, they're going to be shoeless.
Well, I mean, except, you know.
But often they are.
Yeah. Right. I also think we've lost some of what I grew up with as, I hate to use the term rituals, but like at 6 o'clock when my dad finished in the office, we had dinner. We sat at the table together.
Right.
You know, at this time, we did this. We had a time together as family. And no matter how large the family is at this point, you know, people are running until 8 and 9 o'clock at night. They're missing the piece to have togetherness, shoeless or not.
Right.
You know, nobody sits down to have dinner. Nobody sits around on a Saturday afternoon. Yeah.
So what is your generation hearing? What are they hearing from? Are they getting bad advice? Are you getting bad advice from our generation? Are we telling you that it's not fun, or are you looking at our examples saying, I don't want that misery?
Well, yeah, I think it is it's a combination of that, as well as back to the economical standpoint of all of it, is this whole bigger picture of it's a lot of work, it costs a lot of money, so make sure you actually have your life together first before even marriage. Like, it's become a very common thing of live together because it's the more affordable thing to do, but don't quite get married yet, and that's kind of been the passed down, the general consensus of make sure financially you're stable before you make any big life decisions. It's why people aren't getting married till 30, 35 nowadays. And so then by the time they're actually wanting to have kids, their bodies can only have kids for a couple of years. And so it's not like they want to then be having kids when they're 50. And so it's all of this, the world, it's this big picture of thinking the world is a mess. And so you kind of just have to go slower. And so it's leaving just less time to actually do those things. So I'm sure there's people that would love to have these big families, but either they've been told it costs too much, or it's too much work, or they need to start later. It's all. So
the world is a mess. It's expensive. Waiting later, and it sure doesn't look like fun.
Yeah.
Right. So, you, how did you hear all of this and then decide to go in the other direction?
Yeah. So first off, I'm from a big family. I'm one of 7. My dad is one of 12. My grandmother had 61 grandchildren. So it runs in our family. So we have that. It's something we're used to. But I think we live in a world today that is starving for purpose. And we're starving to find our reason for being and what we're doing. And family gives you purpose. You're a part of something bigger than yourself. And I think that purpose also gives you and brings happiness because you're working for others. You're not so inwardly focused. You're working on accomplishing something with a group of people around you. So I think the antidote to what you're talking about is actually getting married, having a family. And there's nothing wrong with a little bit of pressure. A little bit of pressure makes you get out there and have to figure out a problem and do something for the common good of the unit that you're serving. And I think that will give people purpose as they go forward.
So let me ask a personal question then, Josh.
Sir.
When you and Abby are looking at, okay, do we go for number 7 or number 8? Do you have an Excel sheet over here and you're figuring out, okay, college is going to be, and this is going to be, and then gas, and we're going to have a bigger vehicle before you make that decision? Or
I talked to my father about this once, like as my kids were getting older, and I was like, the money is being spent, and like, what's the solution? How did you do it? And he just looked at me and said, make more money. That's the solution. So no, we don't look at it like that. I mean, they're human beings. It's life that you're training, and as many as the Lord will give us, that's our job to find a way to provide for them. And I'm convinced that there will be a way to provide as we go forward. It's how it's always worked for us.
So let me take another aspect of this, which is these 30 and unders are really unhappy. If you just took the snapshot of those 30 and unders, it is an absolute mess. It's like 60% of those 30 and under in America are not happy. And I think, Daniel, this is going to what you have been saying, but they're not seeing the antidote to this being a large family. What about the idea of multi-generational families? I mean, this is something, grandparents living. Why don't we go, what do you think we've lost in this moment that we don't immediately think, wouldn't it be great to have grandparents live with us? Wouldn't it be great to have that kind of relationship? Because let me read you a quote from this. It says, relationships based on affection, close communication, repeat contact, which you certainly have with 8 kids, and mutual support are a source of family satisfaction and in turn, life satisfaction as a whole. Seems like we're doing the opposite, Cynthia, of what they're saying to be happy. We're having less contact, controlled contact, and in many cases, not even having contact between adult children and their parents.
Yes, that's exactly right. And I've said on the show before, I hit the in-law lottery, and I'm not just saying that.
Yeah.
So, and my in-laws are still with us and having a great time with their grandchildren. I also think the other side of that coin is, and only 2 children, I only have Peyton and Stephen, but as they get older, I feel like Big Stephen, my husband and I sort of yearned just for a little bit of the empty nest. And I don't know that that's true, because we are very, very lucky. When our kids are around, we have the best time ever, probably the best, you know, since they were younger. But I do think as adults, me like a more mature adult in years, sees that there's some yearning for just some alone time. And I would agree, though, when it comes time, there is absolutely nothing wrong with trying to figure out how to have your parents move in with you. And some of that is also childcare. I know plenty of people that have brought their parents closer to their home to help with childcare, be a part of, that's right, be a part of grandchildren.
Take 30 seconds. Where's your thinking today? Let everyone watching, as you look at your future, as you're planning, where do you think you're headed?
Yeah, I definitely am pro this. Let's start going back to the family, because I mean, I grew up as a missions kid, and so we were always just working as a team, getting whatever we could get done. And so it's something that I am very counter to what the rest of my generation sees on this, just because I understand that strength of family. But it's just that encouragement across the board that we need more people to speak up and say it's not going to make things worse. Get a community around you.
Final word, advice to those people who are on the fence about whether or not you go in a career direction for a decade and maybe think about family later, and then following the Kail model.
Well, if you're with the right team, the right teammate, the right spouse, you can do both. You can do both at the same time, and it can be very, very rewarding.
Can you do it without God? I mean,
so I don't, no.
Yeah.
No, I think that it's just very, that security that brings is very critical to moving forward. The faith that you have that there is going to be...
Otherwise, it would feel very alone,
yes,
I think, at times.
I do think you're correct. But the bottom line is our society, we need to re-find purpose. And through faith, even through social groups, getting a part of something, getting plugged into something that is bigger than yourself, that's very important to happiness.
Good advice. Thank you, Josh. Good to have you. Thank you all very much. Learned a lot. Well, how can Christians share the gospel with Muslims and build lasting relationships and friendships? We'll talk with an ABWE missionary who is bridging the gap between faiths. You're watching Morning Light on Lighthouse TV.
There are more than 1.8 billion Muslims in the world. That's according to Pew Research Center. 62% of Muslims live in the Asia-Pacific region, and that includes Indonesia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Iran, and Turkey. Indonesia is currently the country with the world's largest Muslim population. The Muslim faith is the fastest growing major religion. So we wanted to know how you can share the gospel with a person who identifies as Muslim. That is the focus of Witness Wednesday. Every Wednesday this month, we are partnering with the Association of Baptists for World Evangelism, or ABWE, to bring you these segments. Today, we are talking with missionary Paul Hanna. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Talk to us about your faith journey.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Syria, which is a Muslim country. I grew up in a Christian home as a preacher kid, and I knew the Lord when I was 13 years old. Knowing the Arabic language and understanding the Arabic culture helped me a lot and gave me a unique opportunity to be able to witness to Muslims, to anyone speaking Arabic in the United States. I've been with ABWE almost a little over 10 years, since 2014.
So talk to us about the Muslim faith. What do they believe?
So Muslims, the Islam in general, they believe in one God, that He is the supreme God, He is the creator, and they also follow the teaching of Muhammad, their prophet. Their core belief circle around 5 pillars. It's called the Pillar of Islam. They are, briefly, they are the Shahada. That means you declare your faith in Allah, or their God, and follow their Prophet Muhammad. Also about the Saum. Saum, it's like the fasting, and that's usually goes for the month of Ramadan. Then you follow after that will be the Zakat. It's giving the alms, that giving charity to the other people. So also you also have the pilgrim or the Hajj. They also go at least once in lifetime to Mecca. And the last one will be the Salat, which will be 25 times a day as a Muslim.
Yeah, well, that's a great explanation. So it gives our viewers a better understanding of the Muslim faith. So since in our today's society, we have people of faith living all around us in our communities. So how can we witness? How can we be good neighbors to Muslims?
So I always tell people, like, you know, when you witness to somebody from a Muslim background, you have to have patience. It requires extra effort, and it's very essential to understand their core belief. For example, like Muslims, they value hospitality and friendship. So take this as an open door and try to build a trust before sharing your faith. Also, knowing their core belief help you to open more the gospel, to use it more effectively. For example, they believe in Jesus, they believe in the prophets, such as like Adam, Abraham, Solomon, David. Use this as an open door, starting conversation for a better conversations to bring them to the gospel. Also, this will help you stay away from debate, because sometimes debating whether the Bible is right and the Quran is wrong, that's what closes the door for the conversation to end up very quick, when it usually does not end up well sharing the gospel. So this will help you always to move forward with them, to trust you. So that's why we focus in the relationship and the trust.
So establish a relationship, a friendship with them, and develop a trust. What type of difference have you seen?
So seeing a difference in people getting saved from Muslim background, it's like heartwarming, and always like sometimes bring tears to your eyes, because you see them like coming from the darkness. I know a couple of people, they told me, like, I can't believe I lived all my life in this darkness and I'm blinded by this false teaching. So you find them also, they have a great zeal to carry the gospel, go back to their countries, go back to their families and communities, though they know there's risk and there's danger in doing so, but they just take it like this is privilege.
So the thing is to really be a good neighbor to them, and let them know that you really care about them as a person.
Absolutely, yeah.
How can we pray for this ministry?
So we always tell people pray specifically for God open doors, because a lot of times we focus on only building relationships and trying to become friends with them, but we miss the opportunity to share the gospel with them. So pray for wisdom. God open the doors, not only to be a friend to them, but also give you a time that you can share the gospel. And I always tell people, share your testimony, share your story of faith. Muslims believe in that, and they value that, because when you share your heart with them, they don't take it just lightly. So pray for that, and God will open the door.
Yes, prayer is an amazing thing,
Absolutely.
and God does answer prayer. Paul, thank you for sharing this with us.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me.
Coming up next on Morning Light, there are about 22 million Muslims living in China. We will talk with an ABWE missionary who is working to spread the gospel there. We are back in 1 minute. Welcome back. Muslims in China face strong persecution and religious discrimination. I sat down with ABWE missionary Mark, who has a translation ministry in China. He explains how he is spreading the gospel to Muslims and those of other faiths. Mark, you've been with ABWE for 20 years. Your ministry is in China. That's a place not everyone would like to go to minister. Why did you choose China?
So I was able to go over to China in 2003 and went to a little small town in the middle of China, and went into a house and was there for 2 weeks and just taught some teachers, some pastors for those 2 weeks. Did not leave the house, went into it at night, nighttime. And it was during that time that I just saw, wow, there's tremendous need here. Not so much for evangelism, but for discipleship. So the Chinese were doing great with evangelism. And I think everyone has heard about how fast the Chinese church is growing. was growing. I think it slowed down some, but one of the big issues was spiritually growing. Are they growing in their biblical knowledge? Are they growing to know the Lord better? Do they really understand how the gospel applies to them each day of their life? And so that's when I decided, you know what, I think the Lord could really use us here to help with resources, help with training.
That's a big decision for your family, because you have to go through a lot of different checks and clearances, I'm sure. How did that all work out?
Yeah, so China is obviously unique. It would be a closed country in a sense, because you're not going to get a missionary visa for China. And so we went in there, we got language visas, so we started learning the language, both Charity and I, and that gives you visas for your family as well. And so we learned the language, and then what I did was to start a business. So I started a LLC over here, a limited liability company, and then over there started a rep office, and then what would finally be it's called a WFE, a wholly foreign-owned enterprise, but it allowed us to then get a visa through that. And so in China, I'm considered a businessman. So I have a business. We're allowed to do translation work and consulting. And so we do translation work. Everything we're doing, though, is biblical resources geared to serving the church in China.
And how was that for your family, saying, we're going to move to China?
Yeah, it was kind of expected. So I was in seminary and getting that training out in California at the Master's Seminary, and so I think the family all knew that that's what we were moving towards. And so when that day came, it wasn't a shock. And as we moved over there, again, I think with Charity and I, we're not perfect in this, but if parents embrace the culture, embrace the change, as we look at as we're serving the Lord here in China, I think that makes it so the family adjusts better as well.
So for our viewers who are watching, some may say, well, this is something I should check into. How did you know that this was your calling from God?
Yeah. So again, the key to missions on the mission field is a local church. And the key then, therefore, on this side of missions is the local church. And so we were serving in the local church, and there wasn't some magical calling. Again, Matthew, the Great Commission in Matthew tells us to go into the world and not just preach the gospel, but go into the world and make disciples of all nations. And so there was our calling, and the Lord directed us towards China, and part of that was both Charity and I. We wanted to use our lives in a place that was needy and could be used in a full extent. And then that whole disciple-making process is ultimately church-based. So we want to end with healthy churches that are raising up disciples in the church in China. And so that's why it's so neat to see several of the people that came to Christ 20 years ago pastoring churches, others involved in churches, and even in the translation business ministry that we started there in China, those people were using that to also make disciples. My manager, who's been at the business for 10 years, is currently, just last Saturday, went down to Thailand for a couple months of training because he's looking to go to the mission field there. So.
That is wonderful. Thank you for what you're doing, spreading the gospel all across the world.
Oh, thank you for your ministry here.
And next week, we will share ways you can minister to those who identify as Buddhist and agnostic. To learn more about how to share the gospel with someone who has a different faith, check out ABWE.org. Stay with us. We're back right after the break.
Welcome back. Well, there are so many big days in the story of America. I'd say few are more significant than April 9th, 1865. That was, of course, the surrender of General Robert E. Lee and the Army of Northern Virginia to General Ulysses S. Grant and the Union Army. Symbolically, it was the closing scene of the Civil War, the bloodletting claiming well over 600,000 sons and brothers and husbands and fathers. It was an American tragedy, but it was the way that that surrender happened, without boastfulness, allowing the defeated to return to farms and families with their dignity. Officers were even allowed to keep their horses and their sidearms, and exhausted Confederate troops were given rations. When the two generals traded handshakes and salute, it gave the rest of the country, North and South, permission to begin the work of healing a broken country. General Ulysses S. Grant's example of magnanimity, that's a word we don't often use, is something we'd probably do well to remember in divided times like these. For Debra and the entire Morning Light team, I'm Jeff Coleman. Thanks for watching today. Go check on your neighbors, and God willing, we'll see you again right back here tomorrow morning.